Time. The best show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 o'clock on Friday. You know what time it is? It's turbo time. No, actually it's not. It's time for Sean's Humble Opinion. I'm your humble host, Sean Farley. To my left, my good friend, Mr. Travis Becker.
Welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good, good.
A little jet lagged.
Oh, from the hockey game in Raleigh, huh?
Yes, even though I wasn't on a plane.
Well, still, 2.5 hour trip. I mean, that's enough for anybody.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another installment of Sean's Humble Opinion, where we offer our humble opinions on anything and everything in entertainment. Before we jump into everything, give a shout out to the man behind the camera, Mr. Quentin Lee. Quentin, back in the studio there, putting all this together. See, you can check us out on the World Wide Web at www.seanshumbleopinion.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Sean's_opinion. That's SEANS_opinion. We do have a YouTube channel. Unfortunately, future installments will not include clips because YouTube has blocked all the clips, and we were flagged. So luckily, we are here tonight and not in jail. Let's see what else. Facebook, we have a Facebook page. You can go out there and like us there. Be sure to send in your comments, questions, any opinions that you have on entertainment, any movies you want us to cover, anything like that. Tonight we're going to be getting into animated film. You can see our little decorative things here. There's DVD cases.
If you're a regular viewer, you know that I pushed very hard for this episode.
Yes. Travis is the animated connoisseur, if you will.
Yes, the Arrested Development man-child of animation.
Yes, I am a novice. I'm going to try and hold my own tonight, so hopefully I can offer my insight on a few things.
We'll do our best.
Let's see. Our first segment, though, we're going to cover the top 5 stories in entertainment, at least in our opinion, things that just interest us. The first one we're going to jump into, The Expendables 3.
Another expendable.
Even more expendable. I guess they just don't really.
They haven't done a good job of expending any of these guys.
No, they just. You know what? You're expendable, but we're gonna let you live for a second one.
That's right.
You're still expendable, but we're gonna make a third one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. More Testosterone is coming to a theater near you pretty soon. Sylvester Stallone is still working on the script. I did hear a rumor that instead of movie trailers being on before the movie itself, Cialis and Viagra are trying to actually get sponsorships because of all the stars being, older. Anyway. Yeah. Need a laugh track. Rumored wish list. Obviously, Stallone has kind of turned this into a staple of going out and getting the action stars from the 80s, early 90s. Some that he wants is Clint Eastwood. I guess he's on the short list of people he wants to be in the movie.
Well, if they get Clint, they've got to get his chair, too.
From the Republican.
Exactly.
Exactly. And he'll be bringing his walker along with him. Harrison Ford, apparently he's on the list. Wesley Snipes, who should be pretty easy to get. I'm sure he could use the work. I know he was recently released from prison not too long ago.
I'm sure he's still got debt stemming from all of that to pay. So
yeah,
he's anxious for the work
or whatever.
Yeah.
I did see a preview, his movie, some Western where he's like a cowboy hunting down vampires.
Cool.
I guess it was like, well, we don't want you for the Blade trilogy or the Blade series anymore, so go be a cowboy and kill vampires that way. Let's see. Nicolas Cage also on the list. And
who doesn't apparently read scripts before he agrees to make these movies.
Which is a good thing for Stallone, because he'll probably be easier to get than Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
So, Let's see.
I do kind of appreciate what Stallone's done with this series, though, just for the fact that it seems like he is kind of listening to his audience.
Yeah.
You know, you hear the discussions all the time with the Expendables, like, oh, why wasn't Chuck Norris in it? And then
Right.
he's in the sequel.
And then, yeah.
So, you know, it's cool that he's been able to do that so far.
You know, it's weird, too, because I was thinking, I was like, he didn't get enough action stars from the 80s, but I thought about it, and I was like, well, he got kind of all the staples. I mean, at least in the second one, you know, you got Chuck Norris, Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like Bruce Willis. It's like,
Yeah.
how many more do you really need? I mean, I guess Mel Gibson could be on that list somewhere, but I don't know.
I don't know if you can ever use the word gratuitous with
Yeah.
a movie like that, but I guess at some point it does get a little over the top. And
Yeah.
there's
Maybe
just so many of these guys.
Maybe he'll phone in his role, because if there's any type of intensity that Mel Gibson can provide, it's definitely by leaving voicemails.
Exactly, and then the phone would have to explode or something once he
Yeah.
was done.
Exactly. And Mickey Rourke, he's in talks. Hopefully he'll be coming back. I know he was in the first one, but he wasn't in the second one. He ducked out, or he bowed out to go do Seven Psychopaths. And then apparently him and the director didn't get along, so he got replaced by Woody Harrelson. So good call, Mickey. You finally made your comeback, and now you're screwing it up again. Don't do it, because I like you as an actor.
Probably threw the psychopath ratio off on that movie. Like,
Yeah, it's like, well, we need 7. And
waited too much under the one guy.
Technically, Mickey, you're about 1.5, so it's 7.5. So
Messed up all the math.
apparently the series is doing pretty well. The first one made what, 274 million worldwide. Not a bad haul. Second one made what, over 300 million worldwide. So, and I know Jean-Claude Van Damme was happy to be in the second one. So
That's even. I mean, it's a good thing, I guess, that they have the international box office to account for that much money, because I think we had talked about in a previous episode that the domestic gross on that was actually a bit disappointing.
yeah, I don't think either of them got over 100 million. So it's kind of funny how, you know, the international box office is now such a staple for movies when they come out. It's like, hey, my movie only made 30 million here, but over in China, I killed, man.
You
You know,
can see the executives there like, oh, don't worry, those Europeans and Chinese,
Yeah.
they'll watch anything.
anything with special effects and stuff like that, it just seems to
As
be
long as
really
it's
big
American,
overseas.
they're all over it.
Yeah, so like we said, there's no release date set. Stallone's still working on the writing, and he has what I like to call a relaxed brain. So it might take him a little while to get the script out. Although I did hear he knocked out Rocky in like a week or something. So
I'm sure once he gets up on a cycle of steroids, he just
Yeah.
pounds them out.
once he's just mainlining the testosterone, he's probably like, "Argh. I need another keyboard because I cracked all the keys because I hit him too hard."
That's right.
Anyway, let's see. We are going to be talking about animation later, so this next story kind of ties in nicely. I know it was one of my favorites when I was a younger kid.
Yeah,
so
very groundbreaking movie at the time it came out, really.
definitely.
That would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Who did, Frank?
which was, at the time, there weren't a lot of movies out that blended live action and animation. At least not that many that acknowledged it in the film.
Right.
And obviously in Roger Rabbit there's like the Toon World and then the real world, but they crossed over continuously.
Toontown.
Toontown,
In fact,
right?
Yeah, when I looked this up, I was trying to remember other movies that did kind of blend the two, live action and animation. And at the time, all I could think of was Cool World, which I think came out after Who Framed Roger
Same
Rabbit.
general time frame, I think, but
Oh,
I think it was after.
Yeah, and then Pete's Dragon, which was obviously
Older.
a lot older and
Yeah.
did not flow as smoothly as Who Framed
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit with the interaction between
Right.
animation and live.
And in that movie, again, there wasn't the acknowledgement that, okay, we're real and they're cartoons.
Right.
They didn't have the money, I guess, to make a dragon that was convincing enough, so
Right.
they're just like, oh, we'll just animate it.
They were saving their money for Rain of Fire with Christian Bale and Matthew.
Right.
McConaughey, but
And of course, that was the days before computer animation, so it was all cell animation laid over top of the film of real people. So
Right.
it must have been challenging for the actors, particularly
Yeah.
Bob Hoskins, the star.
they did a great job, I think.
Yeah.
They really tied the whole, animation, and I just read this thing about it, and it was like a Chinatown meets animation, and I was like, yeah, I guess that's the old LA film noir kind of thing.
And it was pretty gritty. There were some dark moments in that movie.
Yes, there was.
The
Christopher Lloyd. I mean,
I forget. Yeah, I'm trying to recall how they kill the cartoons. Like
the judge, they drop a safe on his head. Oh, the dip.
The dip.
It's a
Yeah,
dip.
like it's some kind of whiteout or acid or
Iodine,
something.
Oxidine benzene,
There you go.
also known as the dip. I just remember the benzene part. I think I made up the rest. So, But yeah, that's they're actually going to be, or I'm sorry.
Well, I guess apparently they've just released the 25th anniversary of the film on Blu-ray,
Right.
which will be the first time it's available on Blu-ray, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty sure.
And there's already talks again for a sequel, which is interesting. I guess anything to make a buck, but it's...
Who Framed Roger Rabbit again?
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't sound like Bob Hoskins will be involved as he's, due to his recent retirement from acting because of his Parkinson's diagnosis.
Yeah, I had no idea that he had even...
Didn't
It was
either.
like we were talking on the way over here, those actors that you just like, you don't know what really ever happened to him. Like Gene
Right.
Wilder, I thought he had died, but he's still alive, but Bubba Smith is dead.
Exactly.
It's like Bob Hoskins has Parkinson's. I had no idea.
Right.
So.
It's like he retired, but I mean, what's he been in lately anyway?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean,
There could be something.
honestly, besides Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Mermaids and maybe a few other movies, I don't know how many Bob Hoskins.
Witches of Eastwick, maybe?
I don't
Cher?
know.
I can't remember.
I mean, the other thing I do remember about Bob Hoskins is he was originally going to play Al Capone in The Untouchables.
Oh, wow.
And actually paid him for scenes that he didn't even shoot, and Robert De Niro ended up coming in and doing it. So
He actually does have kind of that look.
yeah,
The
I
Al
think he could
Capone
have
look.
pulled it.
Definitely.
I mean, De Niro was good, but
Yeah.
But let's see. Another topic, kind of an older news topic, I guess you could say. I don't even know if it's really going to come to fruition.
Fruition. Yeah.
Fruition. Thank you. The Punisher is coming to television. At least it was in 2011. That's how old the story is.
It takes TV shows so long from conception to production.
Yeah.
They end up passing through so many hands, and studios change, and
And
executives change.
I'm hoping the studio just kind of came to its senses and was like, you know, Ed Bonero, you were great with Criminal Minds, but frankly, the idea that you're pitching us for Frank Castle and the Punisher is kind of stupid.
Yeah, I think they came in too late on this craze. They were actually the pitch for the TV show was that it was going to be more of a procedural drama along the lines of a CSI or something, and Frank Castle would have been a New York City police officer by day and a vigilante at night, but the focus would have been on the particulars of the crime, I guess,
Right.
and then his subsequent hunting.
Think of Dexter minus the saran wrap, but with an M16.
Exactly.
I mean, that's basically what it was.
And the Punisher is probably my all-time favorite comic book
Definitely.
character, and it just doesn't fit
Up
the essence of the character.
No, I mean, I'm all
He's
about
not that
trying to, I'm all about trying to change the story a little bit, but I mean,
He's not
you
a
know,
calculating guy. He's
don't completely alienate fans by completely change. I mean, this is one of those instances where, you know what, this is just a completely new series. Don't even call it The Punisher. It's
Right.
like, you know, call it something else.
You're just cashing in on the name at that point, and that's
And the reason we're
not doing a justice to the character, really.
right, and the reason I picked it was because we had written a pilot for The Punisher called Punished, and it was freaking awesome.
It was.
But
It was really more, and the Punisher, you could see the character being developed over a series because of just sort of the slow evolution and the complexity of the character. So we thought that part was good, but our series stuck much closer to.
we changed a few things here and there, but
Right, it
the
was
backstory mainly, you know, stayed the same.
right.
So, but anyway,
Not to
unfortunately,
toot our own
Punished
horns, but-
not coming to a theater near
No.
you or a television show. But like you were saying, we were talking about, you know, the one with Dolph Lundgren, classic.
Classic.
But anyway,
Unless our prospective agent Barry is watching,
Yeah.
in which case Barry, please.
Barry Perelman.
Perlman.
Perlman, maybe.
Please feel free to give us a call.
He was one of the few that responded to us.
We could tell that Barry believed in our vision.
He did.
And if you're watching, Barry, feel free to give us a call at 915-5202.
Right. 804, because we know you're in
804, right,
California.
exactly,
Big
804.
showrunner, you.
Yep.
I think he was involved with Magnum PI, so obviously he's still, you know, what is it, pressing flesh with the Hollywood stars nowadays.
Yep.
But just to kind of reiterate what you were saying, the Thomas Jane film, and then the one with Ray Stevenson. Ray Stevenson was a kick-ass Punisher too. I mean, he was awesome. He was awesome on. God, I keep going back to it. I'm sorry. He was awesome on Dexter though.
Yeah.
But it's like they couldn't capture everything in one film. That's why it's just the perfect character to be developed into a series. I
Right.
mean,
And most of the movies end up being dead in the water because they have to take out an hour of the movie to explain what
Why.
happened, why he is what he is, and what
Right.
he's doing. And by the
Right.
time they get around to it, there's no time for a plot that just revolves around him.
right.
That was one of the things I liked about Warzone, was that it just jumped into it. Like, they weren't really worried about, establishing who is Frank Castle. They just gave him a machine gun and let him start killing people.
Yeah, I think they showed like what one scene he's at the cemetery and he's like, oh, I guess his family died or something.
Right.
So
ultimately, not that consequential to the plot.
But apparently Thomas Jane is like a huge fan of the Punisher too. He's made like his own web film, like Punisher short or something like that, trying to get a sequel of his movie to get going or greenlit or something like that. So I haven't seen that, but I've heard about it. Let's see, kind of a switch here, going from the Punisher to Beauty and the Beast. But Disney is planning a Beauty and the Beast live action version. It's going to be called The Beast. Maybe they're trying to bring in the X-Men crowd. I don't know. But
it's all about simplicity these days. I guess you don't want to have to use any more words.
Beauty and the Beast is just too long.
Yeah.
We don't want to call it B&B. So how about just the Beast?
It's a quaint tale about a bed and breakfast run by a mutant animal man.
Yeah, and he's blue. But I kind of picked the story out because it tied into what we were talking about in previous installments about. I think this is going to be the next kind of, what do you call it, phase or fad in Hollywood. You know, we had the movies, the apocalyptic, Deep Impact, Armageddon, like, oh, it's the end of the world. And now, you know, the whole comic book craze with the Avengers, Hulk, and Justice League. And now it's like, well, Jack the Giant Slayer, Snow White and the Huntsman, Alice in Wonderland, and now Beauty and the Beast. So I guess this is something that they're going to be doing out there in Hollywood land, or Hollywood.
And of course, it's still somewhat recycled because there was the popular TV show from the early 90s, I think.
Not sure.
With Ron Perlman as the Beast.
And Linda Hamilton as Beauty, who, if you've seen now, she could play both parts.
Well, I don't know about that, but
she's
at least one of the two parts.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny, Ron Perlman, because I was reading about it, and Disney's trying to get this one out before
Guillermo del Toro.
Thank you, sir. He's trying to do his own version of it, his own take on Beauty and the Beast. It's just kind of a weird tie-in. Ron Perlman starred in the original series that was on television, and then Ron Perlman starred in Hellboy, which was directed by
Guillermo del Toro.
Thank you again. I can't pronounce his name. So
it's a mouthful.
Kind of a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon there kind of thing.
6 degrees of Ron Perlman.
Yeah, Ron Perlman. Also on Sons of Anarchy. Awesome show if you haven't seen that. Let's see. The last one.
Right into another edition of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
So disappointed with this news.
Apparently, is it Michael Bay? Yeah, Michael Bay is working on a new concept for these characters in a live-action movie. Of course, we all remember the giant latex foam costumes from.
I have them all on DVD.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, it's just those movies that the kids will sit down and watch, and I'm just like, okay. Quinlan wants to sit down. My son Quinlan, he'll sit down and watch it, and I'm just like, peaceful. Yeah. Of course, then he gets up and he's like, come on, Dad, let's fight. I'm like, no, we're not Ninja Turtles or anything.
Yeah, and about the most you have to explain is, all right, the orange one is Michelangelo, and then they're usually satisfied from that.
Yeah, I know, because Michelangelo was always my favorite. I hate to sound like such a sellout, but...
We had I always liked Raphael.
Yeah, the anger management problems.
He was the dark one.
He's the tough guy. You know.
The brooding character.
I have not met one person that was like, Leonardo's my favorite.
Right.
It's like,
that Donatello, he's the best.
Because he's the leader. But,
But I guess the news that was disappointing to you in relation to this, not just the creation of the movie in general, but the casting of April O'Neil, the reporter, of course, who's the Turtles' human connection to the real world.
Who can really wear yellow.
Yes, she could. That yellow flight suit and white boots.
Yeah, I mean, she looks like Marty McFly in his hazmat suit from back.
That's right.
It's just like all yellow, you know.
Just needs a video camera.
Are you telling me this sucker is nuclear? Okay, sorry.
But, Megan Fox cast as April O'Neil, which, well, nice to look at, I guess.
I don't even think that.
No?
I mean, me personally, that's just me. I just think she's ugly and trashy looking. But maybe she looks like a earlier version of Angelina Jolie.
Okay, so yeah.
I just thought it was kind of ironic that they cast Megan Fox because when Michael Bay was doing Transformers, Megan Fox came out and like talked all this smack about him.
About Michael Bay?
Yeah, about Michael Bay. So, and then that's why she wasn't in the third one.
About biting the hand that feeds you.
Yeah, I know. That's why she wasn't in the third one. They got Shia LaBeouf a new love interest and everything like that. So it was like Megan Fox's career is over, and now she's working again with Michael Bay. I don't know. I guess they kissed and made up.
Yeah, like, well, I guess some relationships just work, so.
Yeah, so...
But you did have some notes for
Yeah.
possible alternate casting, though.
I did, and we'll get into that in just 1 second.
Okay.
The other thing I didn't like too much about the Michael Bay
Right,
version.
yeah.
You know, when I see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I automatically think of the ooze.
The ooze.
You know, the ooze that turns them all into the mutant turtles.
Mutagenic ooze.
Yeah, the yeah. I cannot talk. But apparently what he wants to do is the turtles are going to be from another dimension where their dimension is known for turtle warriors or something. And they come to Earth and they have to battle Shredder, who is also from another dimension, or he's an alien. And Splinter's from another dimension and all this stuff. I was just like, goes back to the Punisher thing, like leave a few things in place so you don't alienate the fans, but so much. I mean,
tinkering's okay, but full-scale reconstruction
Yeah.
isn't going to help you in the long run. It's just
I mean,
confusing.
if I can buy that Mark Ruffalo loses his temper and turns into a big green Hulk, I can buy that this ooze turned turtles into Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Yeah,
and
and I
Shredder
mean,
turns them into ninjas.
part of
Or Splinter, I'm
the
sorry.
part of the Ninja Turtle story is the sort of fish out of water thing, where it's,
Right.
they're alien to this human world,
Right.
and that's part of it's their hijinks amongst the humans that's so funny. But if they're just from another dimension, I guess they're still fish out of water, but they didn't come from there.
Yeah, but that was the thing. It was like they're not going to be, at least in my opinion, I'm not sure. But it's like the staples that we love the turtles for. We're like, they're teenage, they love pizza. They're accustomed to our way of life,
They sort of grew up as American teenagers.
I mean, I guess maybe they'll come to this dimension and be like, oh, what is this, pizza? I love pizza.
Right.
So, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, Megan Fox, I mean, really, I just don't like her at all, really. Sorry. I mean, there were a few others I wanted to throw out there, like Jane Levy from Suburgatory. I don't know if you've seen the show. She's kind of younger. She's got red hair. She's going to be in, unfortunately, I think she's actually in The Last Exorcism Part 2. So you talk to her agent or something like that.
Another exorcism.
Isla Fisher from Wedding Crashers. She was the crazy one that was obsessed with Vince Vaughn, Sacha Baron Cohen's wife.
Right.
I think they're still married. Or even Kate Mara from Shooter and House of Cards, younger redhead. Yeah. Any of those three would have been far superior to Megan Fox. I mean, April O'Neil was a redhead in the show, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I mean, get a redhead. I mean, Megan Fox may color her hair, but still, it's going to come out looking like, what was her name? Kristen Dunst in
right.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
When she colored her hair red, I was like,
that was unnatural.
Yeah, obviously. But so those are the top 5 stories in our opinion, things that interest us. Jump right into our second segment here. And again, if you have any questions or want to comment on anything that we're not talking about that you think that we should be, give us a call, 804-915-5202. Be here until 10 this evening, but don't wait till then because the lines will be busy.
They'll be blowing up.
So give us a call.
And always feel free to leave your questions and comments on the Facebook page or on Sean'sHumbleOpinion.com.
Right.
Or
Shoot
at
me
the
an
Twitter
email,
handle.
whatever.
Anything. See us on the street.
Yeah.
Stop us.
Yeah, you know our faces now, so just be like, hey, are you
Right.
Sean? Be like, yes, I am. So, let's see. Segment 2, At the Movies. This is just, I only put 2. I know there's another movie that's opening this weekend called the Spring Breakers, which apparently is getting good reviews, but the only previews I saw were a bunch of teenage girls in bikinis. So why I didn't put that on here, I'm not quite sure. But the first one, jump right into The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, starring Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, Steve Buscemi, James Gandolfini, Olivia Wilde.
Wow.
Yeah.
All-star cast.
I know. And apparently that didn't really help because of
No.
reviews. Last time I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a website I go to a lot with regards to reviews,
Yeah.
is at 39%, which is rotten.
That is rotten.
Apparently the whole story revolves around Steve Carell and Steve Buscemi, who are partners out in Vegas. They still have a pretty popular act, but behind the scenes, they're kind of at each other's throats. They've just been doing it for so long that they hate each other. And then they're threatened by Jim Carrey, who's kind of like I guess he's kind of like a Chris Angel-esque magician.
Yeah, it seems like they were going for that with sort of his costume and with the long hair and the...
Yeah. And his hair looked ridiculous.
I'm actually pretty curious, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but they definitely seem to be riding Jim Carrey in the advertising because he hasn't done a ton of movies lately,
right?
Especially in the comedic vein. He's done more serious and family roles, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
I think the last one I saw was Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Yeah.
He may have done something after that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember. But I'm wondering how major a character he really is, or if they're just really pushing him in the commercials to try to get people into the theaters to see this thing.
Just like the new G.I. Joe that's coming out. I guarantee you Channing Tatum dies within the first 20 minutes of the movie. I'm telling you, you heard it first here. But anyway, sorry. Speaking of Jim Carrey, yeah, maybe they are kind of milking this because he's finally announced that he's going to go forward with Dumb and Dumber 2. I guess he was out, he was in, he was out, he was in. Jeff Daniels was like, I'm in, and everyone was like, we don't care, we need Jim Carrey.
That's right.
So it's like, look, the toilet scene in the first one, you were gold, but other than that, we need Jim back. So
they tried a sequel with other actors, and it did not work.
I know they made that prequel.
Oh, it was a prequel, that's what it was.
But I saw, what was it, When Harry Met Lloyd or something. I never even bothered to watch that. But the original, one of the funniest movies I think I've ever seen. That's just my opinion. But
it was.
That's so quotable and just so many funny parts. But another movie coming out this weekend. I know Quentin got to see a sneak peek of it, and he told us it was great. He said it was, Oscar contender all the way. I'm just kidding. He said it wasn't that good anyway.
Best movie ever.
The best movie ever. Citizen Kane, Godfather, just left them in the dust. It's called The Call, which is actually 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's going well.
I'm sure Burt Wonderstone will be down once it's out a couple of weeks and some more reviews roll in. I'm sure they'll get it down.
Yeah, but if you've seen previews, it's Halle Berry and she plays a 911 operator. Always a thrilling plot line there. So
yeah, and apparently her husband's a cop. Is that right, Quentin?
Chestnut plays the cop.
Okay, and
Maurice Chestnut?
Morris.
Oh, Morris. I'm sorry. Bad with names. And I guess she plays a 911 operator that has to rescue a girl and comes face to face with a killer from her past. And the girl she's trying to rescue is Abigail Breslin, who also played in Signs and Little Miss Sunshine. Haven't seen her in a while, so kind of interested to see what she's doing. It's kind of like Dakota Fanning.
Right.
She showed up in Twilight, and I was like, God, the last time I saw you, you were in was it Man on Fire with Denzel Washington?
Right.
So, but reviews not that good, and just have to say, I know we mentioned it a few shows ago, but this is just proof. You win an Oscar, you're going to get work, but that doesn't necessarily translate into good work.
Right.
So I'm just waiting for the Halle Berry, Cuba Gooding Jr. movie that's like together. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd take it.
So.
Combination of Snow Dogs and Catwoman.
There
we go.
Snow Dogs and Catwoman.
Snow Dogs versus Catwoman.
Let's see here. Well, that gets us into our meaty segment. We're going to be talking about, obviously we mentioned it earlier, if you can see just a few of the DVD cases we have here from some of our, maybe not our favorites, but I had them at home, so I had to bring them in. So we're going to be talking about animated movies and television shows. See He-Man right here, one of my favorites from when I was a kid. But before we get into everything, I know, Travis, you're a big fan of The Simpsons, and I kind of had a question for you.
Okay, I've been waiting all day for this. You told me you had a question.
And I have not asked him yet,
right.
so this is on the spot, and I don't think it's that hard. But
this is live television, mind you, so let's give old Travis a break.
How did The Simpsons come to be? Like, I'm trying to think. What's their origin story? Like, where did they first get their start?
The Simpsons originally were conceived by Matt Groening to be shorts on the Tracy Ullman Show.
Boom!
Which was, and he actually based all the characters on his own family, even the names.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And they did, I forget how many, but...
I think they had 3 seasons. Like,
right.
There were 1-minute shorts, but I looked it up, and there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, and if you watch, the animation's a lot more raw. The voices are nowhere near what they are now. And, the character, Homer's not the fun-loving, funny guy we know now. He's kind of a mean, abusive tyrant of a father, but...
I kind of like that better.
Yeah,
Have some more Duff beer.
And that even bled into the first season of The Simpsons back in 89, 90. he's a lot gruffer at that point, but
Right.
they softened him up to the guy that we all know and love, and
Boy.
who I strive to mimic as he's my parenting role model.
Oh, man, got it.
I nailed it.
That was a good. That
All
wasn't
right.
too hard, right?
No.
I had no idea though. I was like, wow, it spawned from the Tracy Ullman show.
Yep.
That's kind of cool. It's like Boba Fett, and he spawns from the Star Wars Christmas special.
Right.
But anyway, awesome. I'll have to come up with something harder next time.
All right. Yep. Stump me next time.
Let's see. This was a little tidbit I came up with just because we're going to get into WreckIt Ralph in a second. I'm going to wreck it. But there have been 12 Oscars given out for Best Animated Feature.
And thank the Academy for finally adding that category 12 years ago, for goodness sakes.
Too long. I think it was like the 74th Academy Awards they finally gave it out. I can't remember the first one to win it, but of the 12 awards that have been given out, Pixar has won 7. Which
They're certainly the darlings of the animation game.
yes, they are. So it just kind of goes to show. Well, I'll get into the whole Pixar thing anyway, but brings us into this past year's winner, Brave, which I know I mentioned last time was probably, or no, I'm sorry, I mentioned it in a post on www.seanshumbleopinion.com. Check it out.
Right.
Brave probably won. It's up there with Ratatouille for what the most hated Pixar movies, in my opinion. I just don't like either one of them. Brave, it was okay. It's just, I think Pixar has kind of set that bar so high that if it's not something that you walk out and you're like, oh, that was a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, they're not all home runs. Like some of the
Right.
some of the plots that they come up with are just not.
Cars 2 springs to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give that one a little bit of a pass because it's a sequel and they were really just
Right.
cashing on the first one. And the first one was good. I mean, it was.
Although Toy Story 2 was very strong.
That's true.
So, but anyway.
Yeah. They took a lot more time to make that too, though.
Yeah,
Like
that's
Cars 2 was within 2 years of the
Yeah.
original, and Toy Story 2 I think took
Yeah.
at least a couple years.
But yeah, Brave won. WreckIt Ralph, which has catapulted itself to one of my favorite animated films, just because all the time it's one of those movies that strikes the balance between we can entertain the parents and the kids will be interested at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not one of those movies like Snow Buddies where I got to sit through and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie is so
You
bad.
definitely have to strike that balance because while you're leaning over towards throwing some jokes in there for the parents, you don't want to make
Right.
it inappropriate for your kids.
Right,
So,
right. Which
Yeah, I know my kids watched. We got it on pay-per-view last weekend, and they had to have watched it 5 or 6 times. And I'm
Yeah.
sure I sat through 3 of them just because I enjoyed the movie. It was
And
it was quite
we
good.
got the Blu-ray now, and they're at home watching it right now. So,
Yep.
but I mean, it was a good movie. John C. Reilly voiced Ralph. If you haven't seen it, but you've played Donkey Kong, you've kind of seen it.
Yeah.
Because I remember when the game first came up, I was like, man, I want to play Fix-It Felix Jr. But it was kind of cool. Ralph was the Donkey Kong-esque character, and then Fix-It Felix was Jumpman, who would later go on to be Mario,
Right.
obviously. So, yeah.
Instead of an Italian plumber, you just have
Bob Hoskins
There you go.
played Mario
That's
in
it.
Super Mario Brothers. Wow. There's a little tie-in there.
Yep, they're all connections, webs.
But let's see, Wreck-It Ralph, pretty good movie if you haven't seen it. It really, I don't know how the arcade would still be open. I know that was
We did talk
one of
about
our
that.
beefs, like,
Yeah, when's the last time you saw an arcade?
right.
Um,
But it definitely should have beat Brave in my opinion. I could just anyway read the post out there. I can't remember what I wrote, but there was a bunch of it in there. So.
Yeah.
Did you catch the Skrillex reference?
I know you did a song for the soundtrack.
Well, they're at the party and they show a 2-second clip of the DJ, and he's got like this long black hair.
Okay.
He's like kind of bald on one side. That's kind of a Skrillex character. So little
Gotcha.
tidbit of info there. And of course, it was full of little game references. Ryu and Ken from
That was maybe my favorite part, was just because a lot of the video game references were from our childhood.
Yeah, I mean with the mushroom and then the explanation point from
Metal Gear,
Solid, and then it was kind of interesting. I was watching some of the bonus features with Chris Hardwick.
Yes.
And he was saying how they actually went out and got all the original people that did the voices of the characters in the video games to come and do the movie, like M. Bison and Zangief and Ken. Sonic is in it for a little bit.
Yeah.
So they actually went out and found them and brought them in, and they did their own voices, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much
It was a
work
nice
those
touch.
guys are getting. So, But
Sure, it was just a fun little reunion thing for them to all get together and do that. And
yeah. So
that sort
anyway,
of
great
thing.
movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I highly recommend it.
Now, you had told me that they've already greenlit a sequel.
Yep, they
for
are.
that,
They're
and
working on it.
But
And we've come up with the idea.
right. So if I know they were still batting around ideas. So if any of the producers or the writers are watching,
Yes,
this
check
is
us out.
Voice
and
of the People.
Yeah, listen to this, okay? Originally, I thought something about maybe the arcade closes and the games get sent away to a movie theater. But you came up with perfect tie-in, kind of. Go ahead, explain it.
Well, I was just thinking is because nowadays the collecting of vintage arcade games is getting to be a big deal. You see it on American Pickers and stuff like that. You'll see them find these games. So my thought was if the arcade closed and some of the games ended up in the hands of a private collector in his sort of private game room.
Somebody comes in and sees WreckIt, or I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call the game WreckIt Ralph, but it's It Felix Jr.
Right.
because it's like retro.
Exactly.
It's like,
so he's more geared toward the vintage games. So he takes, Pac-Man and It Felix and what have you, but not Hero's Duty, which would then separate Felix from his new wife, the Jane Lynch's character.
I can't remember her name either.
I can't.
The blonde.
The blonde.
The blonde with a big machine gun.
Right, big old machine gun from Hero's Duty. So, essentially the rest of the plot would be them trying to get back together, and then Ralph and maybe Vanellope
Are helping Felix.
Yeah, are the facilitators of that in some way.
Right, because I did read in the what they want to do in the sequels. They want to tie in the whole how we've all gone online, and you're playing your Xbox and you got your mouthpiece, and you're like, all right, go in the building. So that'd be the perfect avenue of you got Felix, Ralph, and Penelope trying to get back to or try and find Jane Lynch's character from Hero's Duty, and maybe they're just going through all these other games like Ghost Recon and Gods of War and all this other crazy. I mean, The Sims. I think that's a big online social game. So
sort of bridging the gap between the old and the new, and what's happening now.
Right. So actually, I have a joke for you.
Okay.
Why did the hero flush the toilet?
Well, if you've seen the movie, then you know the answer to this one. Because it was his duty?
There it is. And it was a big duty. Anyway. Okay.
Well, there's the bottom of the barrel portion of the show.
Yeah, there it is. Anyway, my kids will love the joke.
Yeah.
So it was great in the movie.
That was Liam's favorite joke.
It's funny. It's in, an hour and 45 minutes of the movie, and it's like, I remember the hero's duty joke. But let's see. We're going to kind of segue. I know we're talking about movies at first, but I just wanted to get that off my chest because I thought WreckIt Ralph was robbed. So we're going to start now with the cartoons. And unfortunately, I've already asked you the question about The Simpsons, but that kind of took us into the adult cartoon thing. I know The Simpsons, I didn't know when it first came on the air, I guess it was kind of catering towards adults more than just children.
Right. Well, it was...
I guess because it started on the Tracy Ullman show.
Exactly. And it began in a primetime slot. I think it was either 8 or 9 o'clock it was on. So it was definitely geared towards, the primetime older audience, which was the first show to have attempted to do that in a long time. Of course, that was pioneered by the Flintstones.
Came out
they're in 60.
Yeah, I had no idea that the Flintstones were sold. They aired from 1960 to 66.
Right.
And I didn't know, you were telling me on the way over here, that they were on like during prime time, 8 o'clock at night. Because I guess they were trying to maybe do that whole tie-in with the Honeymooners. Because, I mean, that's kind of very strong similarities between the two shows.
Yeah, nobody had tried that at the time. Nobody had really thought to put a cartoon on. And, TV was still... fairly new.
Right.
I mean, not brand new, but I mean,
you couldn't really push the envelope like you can nowadays.
Right.
It was kind of, like if Sons of Anarchy or Dexter had come out in the 60s, whoever produced that, they would have been, hung out to dry.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been working.
Yeah. So,
that's for sure.
But that it tied into some other cartoon adult movie, adult cartoons. I know there's so many out there nowadays on Comedy Central and stuff. I can't keep up with them. I know Family Guy.
Yeah, I mean, the Seth MacFarlane triumvirate with Cleveland Show, American Dad, and Family Guy.
I guess he was kind of like followed in the footsteps of Mike Judge.
Yeah.
Who did, one of the originals out there. I don't know if you can say adults because as a teenager you watch it because it was on MTV.
Right, yeah, it was
back
more
when
towards
MTV
teenagers.
Still kind of showed music videos. Yeah. But Beavis and Butthead.
Of course.
The AC/DC Metallica shirt.
That's right.
But I guess that was a huge series. I don't know how many years that was on, but
It lasted a good long time. I mean, it was MTV being not the hugest network really at the time.
Right.
If they got any kind of ratings, they just ride it until the wheels completely fell off, or Mike
really
Judge just didn't want to do it.
Because I know they turned it into Beavis and Butthead Do America.
8 seasons? Wow.
8 seasons.
Goodness.
I know they tried bringing it back and it got canceled because I guess the ratings just weren't there.
Well, it was a pioneer, but I think that format had more or less passed it by. I mean,
all the teenagers have now become adults and watch it and they're like, wow.
although we've probably more or less adopted their format. We just need to bring a couch in. And be
I
sitting
know. Oh, wow. Wow. Anyway, luckily our heads are a lot smaller though, and my teeth aren't like. Oh. But anyway, and that kind of got me thinking about the cartoon shows that I loved as a kid. You know, there's so many. When I was trying to research this, I mean, my eyes were starting to hurt. I was
just
looking
one after another.
Yeah, I mean.
And of course, when we were kids, it was the era where all of the TV show, all the cartoon shows on in the mornings before you went to school or on Saturday morning were basically just 30-minute commercials for the action figure tie-ins.
Right.
And I think there was actually actions in Congress at the time where they were saying,
Oh, wow.
where this was an issue where they're saying you can't just make this an advertisement for 30 minutes for your product. And
I mean, that's the thing.
They somehow circumvented it by making the production value high enough to where it was like, okay, well, it's a show, I guess.
Yeah, it was like that whole thing. It was like Masters of the Universe. I'll just use that as an example. Sure. And it's like Masters of the Universe, based on the best-selling toy. Right. It's like the toy came out, and then they based the show around the toy or something like that.
And there would always be at least a couple of commercials during the 30-minute episode for the new action figure in the He-Man line or what have you. Like, get your parents to buy all this stuff.
Yeah, get your
Castle Grayskull playset.
Yeah, what was that thing called? It's like, get your battle-hardened He-Man. I remember this one He-Man.
Where you hit him in the chest?
Yeah, he had like a flat chest, and then you rotate it once, and he's got like one sword mark across his chest, and then you move it again, and he's got like two.
Yeah.
It's like, my God, Prince Adam is dead.
Yep, they had a Skeletor like that too, where they could fight each other and ding each other up in battle. So that was awesome.
I remember having the little skeleton carrying case where you attach all the action figures and then the mouth open, and that's where you put all the battle axes and stuff.
Yep.
So.
But
obviously the show worked because I bought a bunch of the toys.
But yeah, there were several series like that. I know that both of us were big fans of.
Yeah, another one. Well, hell, it's Masters of the Universe in Space. Thundercats. I mean, with Lino and Mum-Ra, who was basically Skeletor, but he was
a mummy instead of a skeleton.
Mummy. So, actually, that was, I forget, we ordered it on Netflix or it was on Cartoon Network or something.
Yeah.
I watched it, and I'm always like, oh, I'm so nostalgic for the show, but talk about the most monotone, just, you wouldn't even know anything was going on, just going by Lino's, like, expression, or he's like, oh no, Mum-Ra is approaching, we must do something.
Right.
It's like, wow, I used to like this as a kid.
Didn't take much.
No, it didn't. I was like Panthera.
Yeah.
Have you seen the fan-made movie trailer on YouTube?
No.
It's awesome. If you go out there and find it, it's whoever did it, genius, because they took clips from X-Men, Pitch Black. Vin Diesel is Panthera. Wolverine is the cheetah dude. Brad Pitt is Lino, and they use clips from Troy, and it's just awesome trailer. I mean, it must have taken forever to do, but I'll watch it every now and then. I'm just like, Thundercats, awesome.
One of the best theme songs ever, too.
Oh, yeah. We were driving down the road, and I don't know where he heard it, but all of a sudden I hear in the back seat, my son Quinlan is like, Thunder, Thundercats, ho! And I was like, where did he hear that?
Yep.
And then he started singing the song.
Oh, yeah.
Thundercats. Anyway, you're probably going to hear more than just that one theme because we got a few others.
Yeah, we do. I wish we could have got a clip of this because this would have been so good.
Yeah, damn you, YouTube. But let's just jump into Mask.
Yeah.
Another great intro.
What a fantastic show that was.
Mask Avengers. Working overtime,
of
fighting
course,
crime.
Mask was the show which had the double dose of awesomeness that was the characters had these cool masks that they put on to fight.
Go in that little room and it's like, okay,
to fight evil. So they would be normal guys and they would put on these really cool helmets, and the action figures came with the little helmets to put on, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then they also had vehicles which would transform from your standard vehicles to battle-ready tanks and helicopters and whatnot.
I can't remember if the red car actually flew. I knew
It did,
I knew
yeah.
the doors flew up.
Yeah, it was like the DeLorean gull-wing doors. And you
Yeah.
push the button on the top, and they would come up, and they would turn into the battle jet
It
thing.
was. I mean, it was so cool. I can't remember if that was a precursor. I think it came out after Transformers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, let's do Transformers, but we need to have humans involved somehow. And be like, okay, put them in the vehicles, and their masks help them fight.
And they were probably my favorite toy line. They were the coolest toys.
I know they're a pretty popular one. When
Yeah.
we watch Toy Hunter, it's always like whenever you see something masked,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I gotta get that.
And masks, it stood for something. There was like MASK was an acronym, but I can't recall what that
either.
was.
Masked Avengers seeking. I don't know. I was on a roll there for a second.
you almost
but
had it.
I don't know. But let's see. Some other one. I never watched this, but I was asking my wife about some shows, and she said Gummy Bears. Did you ever-
My 6-year-old is obsessed with Gummy Bears.
Really?
We bought it on DVD. He absolutely. It was a Disney show, and
I just don't remember it.
I assume it was based on the candy, but it was basically like 5 or 6 of these little colored bears, and they lived in a tree, and they would drink this stuff called gummy berry juice, and it would make them bounce all over the place.
Were their neighbors the Keeblers?
It could have been. I'm assuming it was basically just like give your kids lots of sugar and let them bounce around like gummy bears. But it was set in a medieval setting with there's a king and a castle, and like their nemesis was Duke Igthorn, and he had these things that were basically like Middle Earth orcs, but they were, I forget what ogres is what they call them, but they would fight each other.
I saw the picture. I looked up the image of it, and now that you're mentioning the plot, it's kind of coming back.
It's another really good theme song too.
I don't remember that. You'll have to sing it for us.
I will. Well, I don't. No.
Mouth it. Just say it.
Well, we'll pull it up on YouTube.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll look at it later. When she mentioned Gummy Bears, I mean, the first thing that popped in my head was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Gummy Bear? They've been in my pocket. They're nice and soft. But anyway, brings us into another one that I loved as a kid, Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. It wasn't about strippers. It was about Chip and Dale.
I gotta tell you, all this is bringing back the theme song memories for me.
Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
They have to make like a greatest hits compilation of 80s and 90s cartoon theme songs. Like the DuckTales one was awesome.
Oh yeah, that was. Or solve a mystery. Okay, sorry. This is gonna turn into just like a really bad singing of intro
cartoon
songs.
theme karaoke. That's going to be our...
Do you remember, there was an episode of Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. I don't know why this stuck with me, but me and my niece always used to sing it. There's an episode where they have to go and they're rescuing something with Cuckoo Cola. And it's like, come along, you belong, feel the fizz of Cuckoo Cola. Okay.
That kind of rings a bell, but...
Never mind. Just one of those random memories
Well,
that's still in my brain.
Yeah, they always stick in there.
But yeah, speaking of DuckTales, that was another awesome one.
Yeah.
That got me thinking back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know we mentioned the movie, but that intro was kick.
God, that was good.
Was kick ass too. I mean, that was anyway.
That's the 80s and 90s. That's when they knew how to write a theme song for a cartoon show.
Heroes in a Half Shell, Turtle Power. But okay, Transformers, the original. I know I watched it as a kid. I can't remember that much of it.
I remember a little.
A little older, but
yeah.
I remember it was so cool. Who was the dude that had like the chess cassette? It was like the cassette.
Soundwave.
Yeah, and it would pop out and it turned into like a dog. No, it was his gun.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, we had the 2 little cassettes. I think they just turned into other little guys that would run around and help them.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But another Michael Bay movie. Oh, that's kind of weird. Yeah. Michael Bay. But
of course, the original Transformers movie, which spawned from, I forget which was first. It had to be the TV show first. Because in the movie, which is considered a cult classic, I think.
I would say so.
In a lot of circles.
It is. It's a cult classic.
Okay. And Optimus Prime actually dies in the movie, which, as a kid, you're like, cartoon characters don't die. What's going on?
He-Man died? But then, did he come back to life in that one? Because I remember talking about this
maybe.
kind of segues into another one, G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
You're telling me about the movie where Duke dies, and it's like, how are you going to kill Duke off? But then he comes back at the end of the movie.
Yeah, they heal him somehow.
It's like, hey, you were stabbed in the heart. We got you a new one.
Yeah, I remember because they originally ran the G.I. Joe movie 5 consecutive days. It was a Monday through Friday, and I remember watching it every day before school that week and being completely psyched. And they had Sergeant Slaughter, the real guy, like the wrestler, come on and introduced each episode.
Oh my God.
And it's fantastic.
Sergeant Slaughter.
But you can find the G.I. Joe movie on DVD. It's pretty great. They introduce a bunch of new Joes, and there's some pretty gritty stuff in that movie.
Because you were saying that the movie actually led into what my favorite part of the intro was, when they were always introducing the Cobra, and it's like, Cobra, Cobra.
Yeah.
It's just the coolest part of the song. Anyway, okay.
That was good.
The geek. Anyway. It's kind of funny, Sergeant Slaughter, you bring him up in a future show down the road. We're going to be having a wrestling theme.
That's right.
Maybe not a theme, but that's going to be a big segment that we're going to be talking about. So, let's see. We were talking about G.I. Joe, He-Man, She-Ra, who was actually He-Man's twin sister. I remember taking this quiz, like, how old are you? And it's like, one of the questions was, did you ever think that He-Man and She-Ra should hook up? And I was like, obviously, whoever published this quiz forgot that she was his twin sister.
To Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia.
Yeah, so, and we were talking about it on the way over here. I remember reading about She-Ra. The whole plot line was, I guess She-Ra's on another planet, and she is actually the leader of like this little rebellion that is rebelling against like the evil forces that have taken over her planet. So it's like her and her like 6 or 7 friends, and I'm like, hey, why don't you give Prince Adam a call over? And you know, I'm sure he has some pull with an army or something like that. So, and
I think She-Ra came at a time when there was sort of like a little mini craze going, where I guess they felt like they weren't tapping into the female, the little girl audience, where like they were with the men.
Pony
and Jem was another sort of crossover.
Thank you. I brought that up the other night. My wife was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I was like, now I feel kind of insecure that I watched Jem and you don't know what I'm talking about. Because it was like a split personality. She was one girl, then she put on like her jean jacket and she became Jem.
Exactly.
Or something.
Almost like an update of Josie and the Pussycats, I guess, where she was like a rocker.
Precursor to Hannah Montana. Like a cartoon. Yeah, so I remember Jem.
Yeah.
Jem.
Right. So somebody else.
I didn't watch it. I mean, it came on before He-Man or something.
Right. No,
so I had to sit through it because I didn't want to miss the intro to He-Man.
Exactly. I'm sure I passed through the room while my sister was watching it.
Yeah, that's what it was. My sister, who was imaginary, was watching it. Anyway, HannaBarbera had a bunch of television shows that were coming out, like Yogi Bear. I guess Yogi is to Hanna-Barbera as Mickey Mouse is to Disney.
More or less their flagship character for a long time.
And Hanna-Barbera behind one of my favorite shows, Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
I used to love Scooby-Doo.
Hanna-Barbera cranked out a ton of characters and shows from the 60s to the 70s.
At their pinnacle, I mean, they were winning like Grammys, and I mean, they were a force to be reckoned with.
And Magilla Gorilla and
what else was
some
it?
of the others.
I just remember Scooby-Doo,
Deputy Dog, Huckleberry Hound.
Yeah, all them. And I guess they came out with Heathcliff, who I always kind of considered a ghetto Garfield, but I mean, hey, whatever.
A little edgier Garfield, not so lazy, more like the junkyard cat.
I just kept waiting for him to have like a stogie in his mouth or something, like, hey, I'm Heathcliff, kind of thing.
And I can't remember if it was Heathcliff or there was another show that aired during his block, but they were in the junkyard and they had that cool car where they would like jump in the front and then pop out the trunk.
I can't remember that. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's that?
A Hong Kong Phooey was another good Hanna-Barbera one.
Oh.
Probably.
Tom and Jerry was Hanna-Barbera? Wow. Nice. The original, I don't know if that's a precursor to, what is it, Coyote and Roadrunner or not, but...
well, I mean, any of the...
That was Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole Looney Tune thing.
And I don't know I wonder which was first, Tom and Jerry or Sylvester and Tweety. That was sort of the same dynamic, just the cat trying to eat the...
And Warner Brothers too, right? You know, hey, there you go. That's a whole other series. We were talking earlier about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but Looney Tunes Back in Action with Brendan Fraser and Jenna Elfman.
Oh yeah.
And Steve Martin. Yeah, he was in that. And then Space Jam, which was actually a successful one.
It was.
I looked up back in Looney Tunes Back in Action. Apparently that one bombed.
Yeah, the sports radio host Jim Rome often jokes that he still gets residual checks from Space Jam for his 30-second cameo.
And Bill Murray too, where he shows up for like 20 seconds. But of course, these were all precursors. I mean, Disney, everything like that, precursors to the what is it, Goliath of animation now, Pixar. Quick little fact about Pixar: it was founded as the graphics group at Lucasfilm. George Lucas actually ended up selling off the division to Steve Jobs, who went on and turned it into Pixar. So I swear there's like 5 dudes out in Hollywood, like Steven Spielberg, John Lasseter, Steve Jobs, and George Lucas that are just responsible for everything.
Yeah.
So.
The Pentaveret.
Right. And now, of course, Pixar is a subsidiary of Disney, and Lucasfilm has been bought by Disney. So eventually Disney's just going to own everything. So, but I thought this was kind of interesting too in doing the research. Disney, if you've ever seen it, Mickey's A Christmas Carol came out in 1983, and it's actually the first time Mickey had been on screen in 30 years.
That was mind-blowing when you told me that. I couldn't believe that.
I couldn't believe it either. I mean, I know Walt Disney died in 1966, memory serves, if I researched it right. And, I mean, just to go that long of a time without Mickey Mouse making a screen appearance is kind of
especially
crazy.
the cash cow he is now. I mean, he's all over TV and everything
Mickey
else.
Mouse Clubhouse, I know, God.
He's got
Mouse-Catools!
Got his own video games now, the Epic Disney or Epic Mickey or whatever.
So, and then... Of course, they're responsible for all the classics, you know, Beauty and the Beast, which, you know, isn't as old as some of the others. But Beauty and the Beast was actually the first animated movie to ever be nominated for Oscar for Best Feature. So
before the Best Animated Feature category, I guess.
Yeah. So
that probably had something to do with them creating that.
Exactly.
Probably
and then,
good face give it to them.
Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, which I've never seen. Robin Hood, which is always my favorite. That's always been my favorite.
My 2 favorites as a kid were Robin Hood and Sword in the Stone.
Sword in the Stone, yes,
which
that
I
was
always
really
really
good.
liked based on
the squirrel was hot.
It was.
That little...
I just stayed a squirrel.
Random reference, I guess. The little girl squirrel that he's chasing around. I was just like, she's kind of cute.
She was.
Anyway.
But actually, it was based on the novel by E.B. White, The Once and Future King, which is actually a pretty serious novel. Like,
really?
Yeah, in literary circles.
Wow.
And they did a decent job. I mean, it's goofy, but it has a serious enough tone. Like,
definitely.
I always thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I guess it kind of was capturing that whole, we're going to keep adults entertained and then children at the same time.
Right, in a different way back then.
As long as it's a cartoon, the kids will watch it, they don't care.
Right.
It's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, and obviously, what favorite animated movie, all time?
All time?
Or top, if you can't narrow it down like me, top 2 or 3.
Okay. Favorite of all time is probably Toy Story.
I was leaning towards that.
Which is a movie I can just watch on its own at any point.
Right.
And I'm going to go sort of from left field on this one, but there's a Rankin and Bass production from the late 70s of The Hobbit.
Oh, nice.
Which...
I think I've seen clips of that.
Yeah, the animation's a little funky, but it's actually a really faithful adaptation of The Hobbit. They cut a few parts out, but mostly it's pretty faithful, and that even up to now is one of my favorites.
Huh. Let's check that one out.
Yeah, it's a good little.
Let's see, I can't really narrow it down to. I know Finding Nemo is one of your favorites.
As long as it's on mute, it's fine.
Yeah, when I think about it more and more, you do have a very good point about Albert Brooks'
so much
being
yelling,
very loud. I mean, Dory was like the funniest part, but
just
anyway.
Lots of yelling and whining. It just drives me crazy.
I mean, one of my favorite Pixar's is The Incredibles. It's just so relatable. Like when he goes from a life of all that fun and stuff, and then he's in the cube. Like, okay, if you fill out this form, it's just anyway. That's one of my favorites. I'm gonna counter your Toy Story with Toy Story 3. I'm actually kind of starting to like that one a little bit more.
It's a great movie.
It's about putting your toys away. Like Andy's going off to college, and it's like, man, as an adult now, you can. Here we are, all reminiscent about our He-Man action figures.
I actually got goosebumps a little bit at certain parts of that movie, just because of how well they tied it all together and how they kind of followed from child to young adults.
Hopefully, the rumors about them making a 4th one.
There's no way they should do that.
Leave it alone.
It's ended so perfectly. They should just let it be.
And real quick, I wanted to throw this one out there too. Secret of Nim. Always going to be one of my favorites. Kind of dark and stuff, but it was just...
Really cool movie. Don Bluth, who was a very underrated animator, started out with Disney and ended up basically ending his own career by investing so much money in Secret of Nim.
I heard he actually went bankrupt 3 separate times.
Yeah.
Like he kept renaming his company. And Secret of Nim was actually one of the reasons he went bankrupt once. So always been one of my favorites. I need to get it on DVD. I know they made a straight-to-DVD sequel, which sucked. But
even though we're wrapping up this week's episode, if you want to go to the website or any of those things and just let us know your favorite animated movies, next week we'll come back and give you a little holler on TV.
And next week we're going to be talking about To Be Determined. We haven't really come up with it yet. So But please check us out. We're going to be here every Friday at 9
Yep.
from now until Judgment Day. Well, I don't know about that, but we're going to be here for a while. Fridays at 9. Check us out on the web, www.seanshumbleopinion.com. On Facebook, you can like us on there. I'm putting random stuff up on there from time to time. Check out the new the WreckIt Ralph post that we put up. Read into that, and like Travis was saying, send in your comments. Make a note. Give us a call next week, 915-5202.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll be here Friday at 9. Also follow me on Twitter, Sean's_opinion. There's no .com.
Just Sean's_opinion.
Right. So